Hi, I'm Catherine Diorio, and welcome to Check Please, the show where regular people from all over Chicago recommend and review their favorite restaurants. So this is how the show works. Every week, we have 3 guests. Each recommends his or her favorite spot, and the other 2 go check them out and see what they think. This week, Giving Coordinator Pablo Anaya says the uncommon ramen is just one of the reasons he keeps showing the love to his favorite Japanese joint. But engagement strategist Ellie Barmasal says her favorite spot always rings true because of its Mediterranean flavors and cosmopolitan vibe. Up first, writer MC Antle says if you want to spice up your food vocabulary, he knows just where to go. He says for a sensational spot where fork meets pork, follow him to Pilsen and stop in at Carnitas Don Pedro.
Well, what carnitas are is all pieces of the pig deep fried, and we'll serve it to you on a plate diced up so you can make your own taco and enjoy the flavor that we provide for you and our cooking process, which is awesome. $10 will get you and somebody else fed, and you guys will leave happy and always remember us because of the community and the service you're getting here. We are in Pilsen, which is Little Mexico. I've been here since I was 5 years old, so this is home. This is like the heart of Chicago that nobody realizes, but it's the heart of Chicago. This is pretty much a small family business that welcomes everybody and anybody who's just interested in wanting to sit down and have a plate of pork. It's a salty pork goodness that people can embrace. I mean, you come in, we got pork and we got more pork. So what would you like to sit down and eat? A big plate of pork? We got it for you.
So MC, you say Carnitas Don Pedro is porcine perfection. Tell us why you chose it.
You know, there were a lot of restaurants that I could have chosen, but there is something about Don Pedro that just is absolutely pure in its like love of pork. You walk in there and there's nothing about it that's fancy or frilly, but you go in there and it's all about the food. It uses every little last piece of the pig.
It's true nose to tail dining.
And nose to tail, even though it's not a high-end restaurant, has taken that whole concept and made it an art form. I just absolutely love their relationship to pork and how they present it. It's great.
I grew up sort of going to like carnitas places in Pilsen, usually with my dad. So I took my dad and we drove down, did the whole kit and caboodle, ordered a pound of carnitas right at the counter, and it was super authentic in a lot of ways. Like you're handed a sample as you're ordering.
Right.
And that's super traditional in a lot of like smaller like Mexican towns. But to me, while I like the simplicity and everything, I thought the meat sort of like dried out after a little bit.
If you don't mind, what time did you go?
On a Sunday afternoon.
Sunday afternoon. Well, I have to tell you, I've never had that. Now, I'm not saying that's not real, but when you get there early enough and it's just fresh and juicy, it is so good.
I really loved that it was so simple, right? There's no room for decision fatigue. You have, you know,
meat.
Right. How would you like your meat? Would you like all of the meats, particular kind of meat, tortillas or tortillas, and that's it. And so I went on a Tuesday afternoon. A good friend of mine works down the street, and we were planning to get lunch to catch up. So figured prime opportunity. And as I walked in at lunchtime, they were carting out more meat. So the carnitas was as fresh gets. So it's very juicy and melt in your mouth. It was buttery. It's weird to say that about pork, but the pork was buttery. It was really lovely.
Pork has a lot of obviously natural fat in it, and carnitas are actually just pork in rendered pork fat.
Right.
I mean, they're basically, it's pork on pork. So, I mean, they go through 8,000 pounds of meat a week. They order,
Think about that. Think about that. Think about that. That's a lot of pigs.
They have about 20 plus pigs that come in fresh during various times of the week that are all fabricated in-house. Maybe you can kind of describe that scene of like being in there waiting in line.
when you go in there, you really
Trays of meat.
well, that's actually one of my favorite things, and that's the point at which you realize, wow, a pig has given his life, and I mean that, in all deference to any pigs who may be watching. A pig has given his life so that you may eat. And when they bring out a fresh tray from the back, when you behold that and you see what's in front of you, and did either of you try the brain tacos?
No.
I have not tried
I didn't even know
those
they
two.
did brain tacos.
They did brain tacos there.
It's an addition on the weekend. They kind of expand their
They do.
weekend menu. A
They have a
little bit.
weekend menu,
Menudo,
yes.
the hangover helper,
Yeah.
brain tacos.
I saw
Yeah.
that they did like birria and stuff on the
Yes.
weekends,
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah.
surprising to me because I feel
Yeah.
like there are only a couple places that really do that.
Well, so I know you like to go by yourself a lot, and sounds like a lot of people that go there go with their families, especially on the weekends. But Ellie, if you were going there, who would you bring?
I think it's a great place to bring a group of friends that's interested in being maybe grounded in the culture of the community, because this particular restaurant on that stretch gives you a real sense of the history of the community.
It's family owned, and the family comes from Mexico, and now the kids are taking it. I mean, it's been around for 30 years, this place. So this is rooted in this community.
I think there's something is nice about it though, that it's holding on to those traditional values.
Yes.
Like everything comes out family style. You're sort of, I mean, you're meant to share all of your dishes with everyone, and I think that's a value that I really respected about the place.
Right. And to be honest with you, like you said, it's sort of a beacon for these values because around it, you've got the honky tonk down there, you've got Deus Ex, and you've got all these sort of gentrified
Boutiques.
You know,
all these other
exactly.
bits,
And
yeah.
you've got the artists down on Halstead. And so amid all this other growth and diversity, you have
The
this
last
this,
stronghold of tradition.
Exactly. Pilsen is all about life and vitality. And I always tell people, if you wonder where that American dream went or that American spirit, go to Pilsen because it's all there. You have a lot of first-generation Mexicans who come to this country, and they are building a life, and it's so cool to be a part of that. And that's what a big part of the vibe around this place is.
MC, you chose Carnitas Don Pedro. Sum it up for us.
If you want to go to a place that's real and authentic in a little neighborhood that makes you feel right at home, try this place. It's just terrific.
Great. Ellie?
If you like simple, understated, delicious food, this is a place for you to try.
Great. And Pablo?
Like MC said, it's very authentic and family style, and for that reason, I would say you should go check it out.
You can try the pork and more at Carnitas Don Pedro, 1113 West 18th Street, 312-829-4757. Open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. during the week and 5 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the weekends. Reservations are not accepted, alcohol is BYOB, and the average tab per person is $8. Ellie Barmasal says that even though her selection is on the second floor, all that means is that food and service take it to the next level. She says for magnificent Mediterranean, join her on Oak Street at Fig and Olive.
You walk in and you just kind of forget your day. You see people smiling, you see people just sharing food, and I think it kind of brings a sense of family here when you walk in, and I think this creates a great ambiance. You come in as a stranger and you're pretty much leaving as a friend. Well, we do Coastal Riviera. That's what we like to call it. It's the cuisine of the sun, and it is Italian, it's southern France, it is Spanish. So it's we don't cook with any butter, we don't cook with any heavy cream here. We use about 30 different varietals of olive oils that we use, and they offer all different kind of flavor profiles pretty much. Chicago's really become a powerhouse, that we go above and beyond. We really want to make your experience great by evolving with everything that's currently going on in the culinary world. I want them to leave happy. I want them to leave going, you know what, I love that place was amazing, I can't wait to go back.
So Ellie, you love everything about Fig and Olive.
So I think that food is a way of exploring culture, and I've always used exploration of restaurants as a way to get to know different neighborhoods and cultures within this city. But what I loved about Fig and Olive is it's where all roads converge in this city. Whether you live on the north side, south side, or west side, the Mag Mile is home to Chicago. It's what people associate with this city, and it's accessible, elegant. So regardless of whether you go in jeans and a nice top or dressed to the nines, there's a space for you to feel comfortable and enjoy yourself.
Great. And what kind of food do they serve at Fig and Olive?
I'd say it's Mediterranean, but also grounded in a bit of American and other European fare. But it's delightful. It's really seasonal, and that's really exciting to me.
I think often when I hear the words Gold Coast come up, like I feel like a little on edge. Like I'm like worried that a place is going to be like either like a little too stuffy, or skew this side of older elegant that I'm not comfortable with. But I was really pleasantly surprised. I wasn't put off by the place. I thought that the crowd was like the side of like young and hip, and that was really welcoming and inviting. Decided to get a little gussied up for the occasion because again it was a little like, oh, maybe I should be pretty for this this restaurant event.
You had mentioned the Mag Mile and the Gold Coast, and I believe it's sort of the taint. It taint one and the taint the other. Okay, it's this little gap in between because on one side you've got these uber retailers on Michigan Ave, and the other side you've got the Lonely Hearts and wherever they are down on Rush Street. But in between you have this little oasis, and that's what that one block of Oak Street is, and that's what I loved about it. Especially on the second floor, you've got the greenery up there, and it just feels completely, it doesn't feel like you're in Chicago.
So let's talk a little bit more about the food. It's considered to be coastal Mediterranean. So they kind of specialize in using olive oil. They stay away from butters and creams and things that are kind of heavier. What are some things that are kind of stand out for you, Ellie, that you say people should definitely try?
I know it sounds silly, but the crostini is hands down one of my favorite things. You don't expect crostini to be, I think that there's, crostini, you're like, right, with some like bruschetta topping on it, right? And you're like, how interesting could crostini be? Actually wildly interesting. And I'm the type of diner where I like it to be about the connection with the people around the table. And the connectivity of
sharing with you.
Yes, yeah, no, it's really about culture and connectivity, the two C's. That's what dining is for me. And to be able to sit in the lounge and have a few of their amazing cocktails or a couple glasses of wine, share the crostini, maybe their burrata, burrata is also fantastic.
We had two of us. We split a cut of meat, and I think it was maybe a fillet, and the whitefish. And the whitefish was to die for. That was great.
Pablo, you had the tagine. What did you think of it?
I thought the tagine was sort of pretty standard for a tagine.
You got a way more discriminating palate than I do.
Maybe it was like they were so complex. There were all these different fruits and vegetables in the tagine that I think sort of masked the nuanced flavors of the olive oil that would have been in it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Maybe I wanted a little bit more fig and olive and fig and olive.
So maybe it was a little misleading for you then.
Yeah, a little misleading. But in the other dish that I shared with my boyfriend was zucchini blossom ravioli, and I really loved that dish.
I had that too. That was great.
Okay, let's talk price. We're in the Gold Coast. So MC, did you think there was value there for your dollar?
Well, part of what you're paying for is the vibe and the location, and I get that. And
Do you think that's worth paying for?
Well, that's a personal decision, and to be honest with you, because I went under the context of this show, I believe that I got my money's worth. Generally speaking, when you go into a place, you can really figure the price based on how many people greet you at the host stand. When you more than two, you really know you're paying.
Right. Well, let's talk about that though. Let's talk about service.
The bartender was terrific. She was just great, and our.
And why was she great? She was friendly, or she made good drinks?
She was personable. She remembered our names. She used our names after we were first introduced. Okay. We even talked about the Manhattan she was making me and how, you know, she likes to do certain things with her Manhattans. And so she was fully engaged in the process.
I like that there was this willingness to like explain, like amongst their servers.
Yeah, and I really, really took.
But they also backed away, like if you didn't want to engage in that type of conversation.
So Pablo, you tried some desserts. What do you think?
I really liked, like we shared like a sample dessert plate. So we got to try a cookie, a mousse, and then 2 other things that I can't remember. But I liked the desserts that were there. I didn't think they were anything like terribly special.
Ellie, you chose Fig and Olive. Sum it up for us.
Fig and Olive is definitely affordable, accessible, elegance, and it's an experience.
Pablo?
I think it's a good date night place that's off the beaten path in the Gold Coast, and that people should give it a chance.
Great. And MC?
I think it's a very non-Chicago restaurant and reminds you that the world extends beyond our borders.
You can judge for yourself at Fig and Olive, 104 East Oak Street, 312-445-0060. Open for lunch and dinner during the week and brunch and dinner on the weekends. Reservations are recommended, and the average tab per person without drinks is $45. Pablo and I was in a bit of a conundrum. He would go out for sushi at one place and then have to go to ramen at the next, until he discovered his new favorite spot. He says for delicacies that are steeped in tradition, make your way to Milwaukee Avenue and stop in at Wasabi.
Oh, when they come to Wasabi, like I want them to feel like, you know, they can have authentic food with a little twist. Very good ramen, very good appetizers, and very good sushi. We put a lot of love, first of all, but also we put a lot of very, very good ingredients. Like I suggest they order a lot of small plates, some grilled skewer, some fried skewer, and some maki and some nigiri, like, and then they should go to ramen. Not romantic, but it's fun, lively, like it's lots of energy. I think Logan Square is like a really energetic. All kinds of people live here, like, and then everybody has very good palate and then very savvy about good food. I want them to say they had a good time. Great food, good time. Yeah.
Pablo, you say you have the hots for wasabi. Tell us why you chose it.
I think ramen has become one of those super trendy like food things in Chicago. My friends and I are sort of like dedicated to trying all the different ramen places in Chicago, and there was something about wasabi that really resonated with me. And it wasn't until I was seated at the bar in front of this giant simmering pot of pork broth where you see just steam escalating from it that I sort of understood that a lot of the flavor of ramen is dependent on how good the broth is that's supplying the rest of the soup. And so that's what really drove it home for me, was this really rich, porky broth that had been simmering away for something like 48 hours.
Yeah, it takes them up to 2 days, basically, of simmering. You can't cheat a good ramen broth. It just takes time.
This is definitely not your college dorm room ramen. Went with my family and my stepdad, who we affectionately call the Wolf because he's a meat and potatoes guy. When we told him ramen and sushi, he was like, okay, I guess I'll try it out. You know, my kids are asking me, I'll go. And he actually was one of the biggest fans of the entire experience. We had some of the skewers, which were fantastic. went through a long list of small plates and sushi. And while the sushi was good, the sushi isn't the part that I'd wait for. But the ramen and the chicken lollipops are the two showstoppers. The complexity, but subtle complexity of the ramen, it's very nuanced but lovely and velvety. And what I also appreciated was that the restaurant's decor is very minimal, and so your focus is solely on the art that's in front of you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and the food is art, right? And the ramen just blew me away. It was fantastic.
As good as the ramen was, as good as everything was, sushi was, I will tell
Yeah,
you,
no, their small
I will
plates
go
menu
back
is good.
simply
That's the
for the pork belly, the pork belly buns. That made the trip for me. They were great.
But their menu is quite large. I mean, there's small plates, there's ramen. It's kind of a hodgepodge.
Right.
There's sushi.
But for a place called Wasabi, sushi does take a back seat to the other stuff. I really think that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I was going to say, Ellie, you went with a big group. If you went back with a smaller group, what would you have just left off that you ordered?
We had the house-made dumplings, and like pot stickers and any type of dumpling are my weakness. You know, certainly very fresh. I will not minimize the quality of the ingredient, but there was no complexity or depth of flavor to the dumpling, and
Not
so
like
that
you
was
get in the ramen, and it's sort of like that sets your
Yeah.
expectations for the
Yeah.
rest of the place.
absolutely. I completely agree with MC. Those pork belly buns were phenomenal, and the chicken lollipops are a must for anyone who enjoys chicken.
But stay away from the gizzard skewers. I have to be honest with you.
My mom ate 2 of those.
Oh, really? Well, she
She
could have had
loves
mine,
gizzards.
believe me.
She's Filipino though, and
Yeah.
so Filipinos are all about how do we reuse everything.
Entrails.
Yeah.
And so
delicious though.
her eyes like crossed in excitement when she saw gizzards on a
Right.
menu. She's like, "Oh my God, I need!" So she had to like order a second round of gizzards. So
I know, MC, you had said that you were really interested in how they lit the place and, and kind of the
loved
vibe
what
there.
they did with the decor. It's almost like they dared you to like it, but at the same time, they were way smarter than you gave them
A little
credit
stark,
for being.
a little industrial.
Well, it's stark and industrial. It's got all that going for it, but they did subtle little things. Like if you go in there and you'll find maybe 6 or 7 uses of rectangles. There's rectangle plywood on the floor, there's rectangle cinder blocks, rectangle bricks, there's rectangle tiles, and they're all done sort of to play off one another. And that was really cool. And then you mentioned the lighting. The lighting, I'm a snob about restaurant lighting, and they have about 6 different types of light, including what we went, which was late afternoon, the light from the outside. And so it was intimate and yet all-encompassing at the same time, and that's the vibe about this place. There's no pretense.
come as you are.
It's just come as you are. No judgments. No
Bring
rules.
your own booze.
Yeah, bring your own booze. There's this no holds barred. Whatever you want is okay. You know, socially,
How do you mean? What do you
culturally,
mean by that?
sexually, whatever you are, they don't judge there.
So Pablo, you live fairly close by. You live in Bucktown, and this is in Logan Square, and it's kind of in a still very much developing part of Milwaukee Avenue. Can you kind of talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, so I don't feel like there's much else on that stretch of Milwaukee on Wasabi, which is a little unfortunate because you might end up having to wait somewhere upwards of like 30 to 45 minutes for a table. So trying to manage that and also having to wait outside with the craziness of Chicago weather might be a challenge. But if you time it just right, I think you're doing okay.
But it's a largely industrial area, and you could feel the growth and development coming up Milwaukee out of Bucktown.
Pablo, you chose Wasabi. Sum it up for us.
If you're looking for a bowl of piping hot soup in the middle of a Chicago winter, there's no better place than Wasabi.
Great. And Ellie?
if you are looking for the comfort of a hug in a cup in the form of ramen, Wasabi is your go-to.
And MC?
No judgments, no liquor, but some of the best pork bellies you've ever had in your life.
You can taste the ramen and more at Wasabi, 2115 North Milwaukee Avenue, 773-227-8180. Open for dinner every day and also for lunch on the weekends. Reservations are not accepted, alcohol is BYOB, and the average tab per person is $25. So on this week's show, we featured Carnitas Don Pedro in Pilsen, Fig and Olive in the Gold Coast, and Wasabi in Logan Square. Let's recap what our guests had to say. First, we went down to 18th Street and brought you to Carnitas Don Pedro. MC recommends it for their authentic and delicious carnitas. Ellie appreciated the simple menu and thought the meats were delicious. Pablo thought the meat was a bit dry, but loved its authenticity. Next, we stopped on Oak Street and feasted at Fig and Olive. Ellie recommends it for their accessible elegance and fresh seasonal menu. Pablo thought the restaurant was inviting, but the dishes were hit or miss. MC enjoyed his meal and he loved the atmosphere. Lastly, we made our way to Milwaukee Avenue and checked out Wasabi. Pablo recommends it for the rich, delicious ramen. Ellie said the sushi was okay, but the ramen blew her away. MC loved the ambiance and thought the food was amazing. We've had a wonderful time this week. I want to thank my guests, MC Antil, Ellie Barmasal, and Pablo Anaya. Join us next week for 3 new guests recommending 3 of their favorite restaurants right here on Check Please. I'm Catherine Diorio, and I'll see you then. Cheers.
For more information about the restaurants featured on Check Please, go to WTTW.com/checkplease.